What is going on, guys? Corrosive Bullet here. Welcome back to another Dragon Ball Legends video. As you guys are probably well aware, they just released and announced Goku Black's Zenkai Awakening, and I figured I would kind of give my thoughts and give some sort of constructive viewpoint in terms of how I feel about the Zenkai Awakening system. So I'm gonna shut people down real quick right here first. I'm gonna say some positive stuff about the feature before I start getting into the nitty-gritty stuff. So in terms of Zenkai Awakening in itself, Zenkai Awakening there's nothing wrong with Zenkai Awakening in terms of the concept. Now, what I mean by that is, if you think about it and you kind of go back to the old days of where they used to buff units, the way that they used to buff units around this time last year, they would release maybe updates for the bottom tier 4 or 5 units and make them slightly better. In doing so, yeah, the units became better units. I'm not going to deny that they became better units, but the way that they were buffed, we're going to use this Vegeta as an example here. Oops, that is not what I want to do. But in terms of the specifics, the way that these units got buffed was basically just an adjustment of their current palette with increased stats. Back in the day, when this unit first came out, he used to only get you just had standard attacks, you know, like standard strike, standard blast attacks. And then with the update, they changed it so that way every time he lands a strike arts card, not only does the enemy lose 1 card in their hand, but they also ended up getting 10% strike damage for 10 counts, which is good. Which was a very good update for the character back in the day, like that for that. But the way that Zenkai has gotten better, and the reason why Zenkai is better in concept, is because of the kits that they upgrade and update. Not only do the characters in Zenkai get adjustments to their existing, you know, abilities and cards, they also, and increase in stats, they also ended up getting additional abilities on top of the changes to their pre-existing abilities. This Goku didn't used to offer 80% to damage inflicted against Lineage of Evil characters. This character didn't used to offer damage increases upon the death of Krillin. This is the type of stuff that people tend to overlook when it comes to Zenkai units. They're not quite like the old methods. They're actually better. Now, in terms of the positive spin on Zenkai Awakening, there is no positive. That's the only one. That's the only positive spin that I can really have for these types of changes. Now, to kind of get into the nitty-gritty. Of it, people. The main problem with Zenkai is the fact that, for the most part, 99% of it is pay to win. Now, yes, if you unlock the character and you have it at 7 stars, I'll get into that in a second. When you get it to 7 stars, you do get the opportunity to unlock the first level of Zenkai for free. That's nice to have. However, in terms of getting the rest of these updates, this is the only way to do it. is by summoning on these Awakening summon banners to potentially unlock pieces. Now, it's all RNG based, which sucks, for one. And the big drawback on this is the fact that you have to spend relatively 21 to 23,000 chrono crystals in order to max characters out to 7 stars. That is nuts. Especially when you have free-to-play players that are out there trying to save up their chrono crystals for new characters when they release. That's not okay. That is not okay. I am not condoning that whatsoever. Now, one thing I am going to say though is that for those of you in the community that are saying that it's a flawed system and it's terrible, it's awful, and they need to make it changes so that way it's free to play and that everybody has access to it, that is 100% valid. There is no reason that you shouldn't be thinking that way. But what I need to add is that if you think that Bandai is going to make it 100% free to play, you're wrong. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It just won't. They implemented the Zenkai system not only to make it a little bit easier for them to release updates to the units, but they also did it for monetization purposes. And while that is not a bad thing in its entirety, if they are going to incorporate a means to give these characters updates, and you're going to monetize that system in some capacity, then they need to think about the accessibility of players, and they need to offer a free-to-play option. Now, I know a lot of people out there in the community will hate this comparison, but let's look at it from Dokkan's perspective, right? EZAs and Dokkan is nowhere even close to what the Zenkai system is in here. However, they can utilize the EZA method in Dokkan and implement that in some capacity to Legends here. Now, when I said that accessibility for free-to-play players needs to be a must when they are monetizing something like this, what I'm referring to is a method of grinding in which free-to-play players who don't want to spend the money to do it they give them an option to grind out in excess the ZA souls needed to Zenkai Awaken the unit for free. If anybody here plays Dokkan, you know what their EZA system is like. In order to semi-max out a unit in Dokkan, I think you need to go about 35 to 50 stages, somewhere in between there, in order to max them out completely. I may be wrong there. You guys can correct me in the comments down below. If that's the case. But it's a grind. It's a grind in Dokkan. And I think if they implemented a free-to-play aspect like EZA into Legends in that same manner, where free-to-play players can grind out the game, and I'm talking grind out the game, then I shouldn't see any reason why the Zenkai system can be monetized. So long as there's an option for every player to do so, that's when it's okay. But when you seclude one aspect of the community and you only benefit the other side, that's when it tends to become a little shady. So the way that they could implement that, they could do it similarly to like Rising Battle, and as you put like 100 200, 300, 500 stages of Rising Battle for Zenkai, right? Make it a Zenkai Awakening Rising Battle type deal. And for every stage that's completed, give out like 10 ZA souls, and maybe a couple of the Zenkai souls for the boost board. Do it in that capacity, and that gives the free-to-play players the option to grind it out, and extensively grind it out. And if somebody doesn't want to grind out the banner to that capacity, then they have the option to spend a little money on the banners and to upgrade the Zenkai system that way. That's a valid way to go about doing it. The other thing that needs to kind of change too is the requirements on how to Zenkai Awaken these characters. Now, I'm currently working on getting Goku Black leveled up, so there will be a future video kind of going over the breakdown of how this character operates with a little bit of a test run. But this system right here is exactly part of the problem. I think the way that they should implement it is that you shouldn't restrict players to the 7-star count. Now, given in most cases, not every case, but in most cases, most players will have these older units up to 7 stars, especially with the new star system in place. But I'm not referring to those players. I'm referring to people who just started out with the game, who are just acquiring these units and whatnot. Locking them behind the star system is not a good way to implement it. It's not. What they need to do is, honestly, as much as people complain about the star restriction on this, or the friendship grind for these units, I would say that that's an easy way for players to actually get the first tier of their Zenkai level. Like, grind out the friendship level. I know it sucks. It's a terrible method, but in terms of giving players the option without restricting how they play, that's not a bad way to do it, because that way the player at least still has to work towards it without having to rely on RNG from summons to be able to do it. It's a simple method. It's a simple method, and I think it would work. Personally, I think it would work real well. But yeah, in terms of Zenkai, like I said, it's a valid. I think it's something the game did need, in terms of boosting characters, and I'm not talking just boosting characters. I'm talking full reworking of the characters, adding brand new abilities that benefit not only benefit the unit itself, but being able to benefit party members even more so. And I understand that, you know, Bandai's in the means of making money. They're in the business of making money. They have to earn money in some capacity to be able to continue the production of the game and to keep releasing new content. That's why whales and dolphins should be a bit more respected in terms of that, because they are what is fueling the game to keep going forward. But in terms of the Zenkai system itself, it needs a big overhaul. It needs a really, really big overhaul. And I think it'll get there eventually. It'll become better over time. But we need to be patient. We need to let the devs work through the system, see what people like and see what people don't like. Because they fixed the they didn't fix, but they made the grind, the adventure grind, a lot easier. They listen to you guys, they listen to the players, they listen to us. And look at that. To give you guys perspective on the grind, the adventure grind, look at last month's. 600,000 of the candies or cakes or whatever. That's a big grind. That is a huge grind. And the fact that they went through and they cut it by 2/3, you only need to acquire 1/3 of what last month's acquisitions are. Which is amazing. That's great. It's not so much of a grind. They also implemented the 7-hour adventures, which give you about 12,000, 13,000 of the lucky beans per 7 hours. I think that's great. I think they listen to the fans here. It clearly shows that they listen to the fans, and they have made improvements to the adventure system. Now, obviously, if you go through the news, it shows that they will be releasing a part 2 of this event. But by doing it in waves like this, right? By implementing waves as opposed to just dropping everything down all at once, it gives players the sense that the grind is not as bad as it is. And I think that was part of the problem. I think part of the problem was that they threw all of it out to players at once, and it was overwhelming. It's very overwhelming, especially when you're looking at it at face value. So by releasing these events and stages, and by lowering the amount of the rewards cost to get said rewards, I think, and by implementing the 7-hour adventures as well, I think it clearly shows that they are listening. It may not be the perfect change, but it is a change, and it is a change for the better. So they are listening. But guys, you've got to be patient. You've got to let the devs do their work. They clearly see some of the frustrations. It's just a matter of they need to put the time and the effort in to think of a way to change the Zenkai system for the betterment of the players. And that takes time, that takes resources, and that takes money to be able to do so. Maybe not necessarily money, but I mean money in terms of them having to pay the devs for the work that they're putting in. But we just got to be a little patient, guys. The fix, I believe, is going to be coming. It's going to be coming. We just don't know when. We just need to wait and see what happens. But that's my take on the Zenkai system, guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But I'm going to wrap it up here. If you enjoyed today's video, if you enjoyed this constructive feedback to the devs, leave that like button. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the system and what you guys think would be the best way to implement the change going forward. And with that said, that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for the love and support. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.